Welcome to Roaming with Restless Women. I'm Julie Noonan, your host. This is a great day because we are talking with Joyce Fiedler. Joyce is a first-time writer whose book, which I love the title, Evolution of a Baby Boomer, Life After Sex, Drugs, and Rock and Roll, came out in April. So we're going to celebrate her book with her today. She's also a songwriter whose previous compositions included songs for her 80s new wave bands. Her foray into writing comes after a busy life as a co-owner of a record store, head shop singer with a video on MTV to a song she wrote, university communications instructor, secondary special educator, and actor. She wrote a one-woman show called Evolution of a Pisces Baby Boomer, which she staged to full houses 5 times at 3 Los Angeles theaters prior to COVID. An Army brat who's lived in Germany, Japan, and around the U.S., Joyce and her hot husband live in Los Angeles, where they recently celebrated 25 years of marriage, a personal best. Her grown daughters, who both survived her lousy parenting, we have that in common, are thriving in Los Angeles and Australia with their beautiful families. Joyce has a BA from Purdue in speech education and theater, an MS in radio television from Butler, and a special education credential from Cal State Northridge. So obviously a very busy lady. Welcome, Joyce.
Thank you so much, Julie. Happy to be here.
Great. Okay, let's just start at the very beginning. Tell us a little bit about your life and career and how you decided to become a writer.
I was working in a record store while I was in college, and I was the manager of that record store. And after I graduated, I was working two jobs, one as an assistant box office manager at a theater, and then at a live stage theater. And then also my then husband and I started a retail record store of our own. And so I forgot to put my phone on airplane.
Okay.
So we owned this record store from 73 to 83. And it was in the back of a head shop. And I don't know if you know what that is, but a head shop is where they sell bongs and smoking pipes.
Okay.
Incense. Yeah. So we were in the back room. We were in the back room of that store, and eventually, after that guy got shot by the FBI in the parking lot, then we were the head shop because he went to jail. We moved out of that space. And so we did that for 10 years. And at some point, I decided to start singing in a band. And down the road, I moved to California after I got divorced. And as I got sober when I moved from the Midwest. All that was happening in Indiana. And when I got to the California, I got sober. And in recovery rooms, people share their stories. And over the years, people kept saying to me, "Oh my God, you should write a book. You should write a book." And so I started writing a book 20 years ago and just recently decided, every week, somebody I know either dies or is diagnosed with some hideous illness. And I just said to myself, are you really going to die with your book in a box under your bed? Or are you going to do something with it? So I made up my mind to get the book out of the box and publish it. That's what I did.
Such an awesome story. Oh my goodness. And so what is it about your life story? What is it? What's the golden thread or the red thread that runs through that identifies your passion?
I would say I'm a person who makes a decision about what they want to do and then they do it. And that has been consistent throughout. Even if it's self-destructive decisions, that's been the case.
Yeah.
For example, I married the first guy I ever slept with when I was in college. And 10 years into that marriage, while owning that store together, I decided I wanted to date. And so I went to the library and I checked out a book called Open Marriage and sat my husband down and explained to him that I wanted to start dating. And he could either read the book I had checked out or I'd give him a book report. And the book I wrote actually opens with that scene. So it
Wow.
starts with that announcement that I want to date. So I'm not saying it was sane. I'm just saying that's what I did.
Wow.
And
So
then I
you're
talked him
very,
into it. We both started dating.
wow. That's
Yeah, we both
amazing.
started dating, but I hooked up with a guy that was, yeah. And we'd been married 10 years. We had two daughters. And I gave him an ultimatum, really. I said, either I can move out and get my own place, or we can try the open marriage. And he agreed to the open marriage. And then I started dating this guy who was 8 years younger than I. And I am by nature really a one man woman. And
Mhm.
so I just wanted to be with this guy more than was convenient to be dating. So I just moved him into our house, but only for the last 6 years of the marriage.
Okay. And so he was in your house, your husband was in your house, he was also dating, and you had the two kids.
Right.
Woo, busy life.
He was. Yeah. And I also decided I wanted to be a singer in a band. So I had joined this band. And as the open marriage evolved, he started dating our bass player, who was also married. She told her husband the same thing. He said, "Are you insane?" And
Oh,
he moved out and he
okay.
he left her, and they got divorced.
Mm. And so you said that you did wind up divorcing your first husband.
Right. After
Okay.
6 years of all this crazy, I decided that I was going to move away, go to LA, pursue my dreams, become an actor. And so I started making those plans. And my children basically did an intervention because they didn't know that's what they were doing. They just thought they were going to treat me the way I treated everybody else and do whatever they wanted. So I said, "Hey, let's go." And they were like, "Yeah, no." They
Okay.
were over me. They'd had
Uh-huh.
it with me. It was embarrassing that they had this crazy lifestyle. So when they invited kids over to spend the night or whatever, I would call the parents and explain, just FYI, here's what's happening, and explain that we had all these people living at the house and whatnot. And they just said they weren't coming. And it
Wow.
was devastating to me. They were 13 and 16 years old. And here they were choosing to stay in what I consider nerdly, narrow minded Indiana with the bad weather. And I
Mm.
was offering them groovy, sunny California. And they were like, "Yeah, no." So
Wow. And you said
it's
that
pretty
you were
awful.
not sober at that time. Was that part of their decision making, do you think?
I'm sure it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was a daily pot smoker, started smoking pot when I was 20. I was now 40. So I had pretty much dedicated myself to that choice. And then I drank all the time. And I would think about what I wanted to drink before I would go work at the record store. And I would just bring the booze with me to work. And I'd be drinking screwdrivers or gin and tonic or beer or whatever while I sold you your Led Zeppelin album.
There you go. Okay.
So,
And
yeah, they were not
so
into it.
when you got to when you got to LA, what was your first challenge when you got to LA? Because I'm assuming it was pretty challenging to make that
I
decision, make
didn't
that big of a move.
Fortunately, I had a college friend who was renting me a room. She was about an hour outside of LA, but I had been going to meetings for friends and family of alcoholics because it will come as no surprise that boyfriend was a really bad drunk. Who else agrees to move in with some chick and her husband and the two children? But he was an alcoholic. So he had started really having consequences, getting in car accidents and punching holes in the wall. And he once punched out his own windshield. I had started going to a program, and a recovery program, and a counselor I made up my decision that I wanted to be as mentally, physically, and spiritually healthy when I got to LA. Plus, I was pursuing acting, and I figured there are a million reasons why I won't get hired, I won't get the job. I don't need to give them one more excuse. So I'm just not going to look for a drug dealer when I get to LA. And so that was the depth of my decision making. But I was 3 days with no drink and no drug by the time I got to LA because I didn't bring any booze, didn't I left all my pot behind. And so I was a little sketchy and just looked in a phone book and I looked up a recovery program and started going to meetings. And fortunately for me, I was eventually able to stop drinking. I didn't see my drinking as a problem because pot was my main deal. But I once was at a meeting and a guy asked me to go for coffee afterwards. And he said, "You and your little pot problem, why don't you come back when you get a real drug?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "I know you're still drinking." And I didn't know how he knew because I brushed my teeth, I was chewing gum. I didn't know that I probably was a little tipsy. But he said, "If we drink, we'll be back slamming heroin or doing whatever people do with an 8 ball." But he was like, "You put us all at risk if you keep coming to the meetings and you keep drinking." And I thought, oh my gosh, don't kick me out. Because at that point, I had maybe 2 weeks of no weed. And he goes, "Just look at it this way. If you give yourself permission to still drink, it's all the same disease, alcoholism, drug addiction, it's all one thing. And if you've been out and you've had a couple brewskis and someone says, 'Hey, want to go burn one?' What will your answer be?" And I could see it. I could see that, oh, shoot, there'd be no way I could resist getting high if I already was a little bit tipsy.
Yeah.
Really, I've been fortunate because that was August 20th, 1990. And so I just celebrated 34 years of sobriety.
That's amazing. Congratulations on that. Absolutely, congratulations. That is a hard road to hoe.
Thank
So, what was the most challenging
Yeah,
thing?
thank you.
Uh-huh. What was the most challenging thing about putting your book out there?
Guess I had some fear that people would judge it and that they would be appalled. Again, I opened the book with that very racy incident. It's a big hot sex scene in the very first chapter. And even though I knew it was honest and it was true, I didn't know if people would say, "Yeah, what a sleaze bag," and if that would be difficult to take in. But as it turns out, now it's only been out 4 months, but the reviews have been so heartwarming because it just all kinds of people from my entire life have read the book and written these really heartfelt reviews. And because it's about my life, it's as if I'm sitting in a memorial for myself and people are saying nice things about me.
Wow.
Um, and I'm talking about, there's a guy who I went to high school with he sat next to me in homeroom and I adored this guy. And over the years, we have never kept in touch. We do not engage on social media. We don't have the same politics, blah, blah, blah. He wrote the most beautiful review, and we then engaged back and forth in some messages. And experiences like that have been the actual result. People I went to college with have read it and commented. Somebody I lived in Germany with in junior high read it and wrote beautiful things. People I go to church with today, who I've been in church with for 30 years, who are like, "Oh my God, we had no idea," because they don't know that person. It really is true what they say, that you can reinvent yourself. And that's the thing. Your question, your very profound question of what's the through line of my life, I have lived with the same determined passion in my sober life as I did in my loaded life. The people who've known me for 30 years at church know me as somebody who shows up on the committees that I sign up for
Mhm.
and who brings cookies when she said she would and who is happy to go unlock the door when some film company rents the church because I can be trusted with the keys. So that's who they know because I have that same determination and that same push to follow through with stuff that I had when my primary mission was how many nights in a row can I go out and have fun and dance till I drop and just party till I puke, basically.
Yeah, I'm telling you, to me, it does seem like it takes a lot of courage. It takes courage to put out a book that's not going to be controversial. So you putting out a book that lays your life bare, basically, and some of it is controversial, especially to people who may know you now, which, like you
Mhm.
said, they don't know that other person, but that other person is still you. And
Right.
the fear of being judged
Hmm.
is a huge fear for many people. And so, congratulations for stepping out there and becoming vulnerable. That's huge. I know it's one of the main
Thank
pillars
you.
of being able to build trust. If you can be vulnerable, people will trust you more because they know you're telling the truth. So thank you for that. Absolutely.
Right. Do I appreciate that. And that's interesting you should choose that word because someone actually wrote that to me yesterday. A guy I know from a theater company where he and I were together in this weekly class read the book yesterday and his first comment after finishing it was, "I know now that I can trust you more." I don't know why he felt that way. What it revealed is he had some sense that he wasn't sure he could trust me before, but that was his opening line. I feel now that I can trust you more. I don't know.
And don't
It
think it's
struck me.
you
Um,
automatically because maybe it's his trust issues. Maybe he has that for everyone.
that's very interesting because
Yeah.
I think you're not wrong.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
is
If you look at
somebody
his
who
interactions with,
has a quirky personality.
Mhm. Yeah. So if you look at his interactions with others, you may see that element of just holding back just a little. I'm
It's
going to ask
interesting. Yeah.
you my three final questions that I ask everybody. When you close your eyes and I say the words wise woman, what picture appears?
Actually, it is, I'm a political junkie.
Uh-huh.
So I have this array of powerful and passionate women politicians.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
That's who I would see.
Okay. And what makes you roam? What do you like to do when you roam?
Oh, wow. I really am not somebody who spends a lot of time in nature. And I'm one of those people who I know it's not the norm, but if I go to out in the country and I'm staying in a cabin, which I've done before, to me, the crickets are deafening and it annoys the crap out of me. Um, but because I like city life and I like all the cultural enrichment of being in a city. So
Uh-huh.
when I'm roaming, I have a different open mindedness about nature. And I like to go to the most breathtaking panoramic views of natural beauty. So
Hmm.
that would be my roaming. In fact, I'm looking forward to doing that in Tasmania. I'm going to be in Tasmania in January, and I have looked at some. There's this book called A Thousand Places to See Before You Die, and there are
Yes.
some places in Tasmania that are in that book.
Wow. I wouldn't have, that's not even close to my bucket list, but it sounds phenomenal. what makes you restless, Joyce?
Yeah.
What makes you restless?
Oh, again, because I'm a political junkie, political uncertainty makes me very restless. I
Mm,
have lived all over the world. I have traveled a lot. And in fact, my husband and I have gone to places that people only dream of. And we go to recovery meetings wherever we travel. So I've been to Bali and New Zealand and Paris and Dublin and Canada
oh,
and Mexico and all over the US. And I get restless when I think about the political uncertainty in our country today. It really deeply troubles me.
yes. Yes, I would agree. I think most of us are feeling, regardless of your political predilection, most of us are feeling that restlessness and what's going to be coming next. I know I have felt it in my business. Companies are a little more reluctant right now to sign big
Mm,
contracts because they don't know what the next phase of the
mm.
country is going to look like. This has been phenomenal. Where can people get your book?
It is everywhere.
Okay.
It's on Amazon as an ebook, as a paperback, as an audiobook. And FYI, in the book, I talk about this happened in my life. I wrote a song about it, and here are some of the lyrics. In the audiobook, I say, this happened, I wrote a song about it, and a recording of my band playing that song comes in. So there are
Nice.
excerpts from about, I don't know, 5 or 6 songs that are in the audiobook. And the audiobook is available everywhere. If you have a library card, you can get it through an app called Hoopla, so you don't even have to pay for the book. It's also on Spotify and it's everywhere. Nook
Wow.
from Barnes
Yes.
and Noble.
That's
It's everywhere.
terrific.
Yeah.
Do
I
we
I
will
hope
put,
people
yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I hope people will give it a shot. It is not heavy. It is not deep. It does not take up a lot of your life to read it. Many people, several people have said they read it in 2 hours.
Wow,
Other
yeah.
people, the audiobook is only 4 hours. I know some of my very favorite audiobooks are 20 hours. This is not that. This is 4 hours, you're in and done. So
I love it. I love it. I'll put the information in the show notes. And I want to say again, thank you so much for sharing your
thank
life
you.
and your wisdom with us. It's been wonderful.
I appreciate you having me. Thank you so much, Julie. Happy trails to you.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.